been climbing technical rock for 9 years. Grand Teton via the Upper Exum route is a serious objective. 13,000 feet of elevation, exposed granite, a peak with a documented history of killing experienced climbers. I do not take that mountain casually. We checked in with rangers the morning of our attempt. They cleared us. 20% storm chance, they said. Start early, you will be more than fine. By 9:45 in the morning, at pitch 4 on a wet slab at 13,000 feet, blue arcs of electricity were jumping between the carabiners on my harness. All 3 of us made it down. The ranger's clearance is the detail I have never been able to let go. 3 of us. Early start, 4:30 a.m. from the trailhead, the standard alpine approach that puts you high on the mountain before weather has time to build. The sky was clear leaving the parking area. Headlamps on the approach trail, the specific pre-dawn quiet of a mountain that has not woken up yet. By the time we hit the technical sections, the light was good and the rock was dry, and the 20% looked like exactly the kind of number you file away and forget. Pitch 4 at 9:45 a.m. Ice pellets. Not rain. Ice pellets. The specific mountain signal of a fast-moving convective storm building directly overhead. The slab we were on, which had been dry granite 30 minutes earlier, went slick in under 2 minutes. We were committed to the pitch. No retreat from the middle of a wet slab at that angle. We moved faster. The static electricity started before the storm hit. Hair standing inside helmets. That is the first sign, and it is unambiguous. Static charge building in the air around you strong enough to lift hair through a fitted climbing helmet. I felt it before I saw it. Then I saw it. Blue arcs on the rope, visible sparks jumping between gear placements, a faint crackling sound from the metal rack on my harness. We were at 13,000 feet on exposed granite, underdressed for the temperature that was now dropping fast, soaked through from the ice pellets, covered head to harness in metal climbing hardware, on a peak that appears in the accident reports of the American Alpine Club with regularity, specifically because of what happens to climbers in this exact situation. The rationalization in that moment is not a conscious process. You are on a wall. There is no down that does not involve passing through what you are already in. The only direction that has any logic to it is up and through. We kept moving. The lightning struck 100 yards to our left. The electricity from the strike conducted through the wet rock surface and hit me before the sound did. My hands released. I came off the wall. The rope caught me. I got back on the wall and kept climbing. We reached the summit as the storm was fully overhead. The 3 of us were standing on the highest point of the Teton Range in an active lightning storm, hypothermic, extremities starting to lose sensation when the strike hit the summit block. The crack was instantaneous with the flash. All 3 of us went down, not fell, were knocked over. The concussive force of a direct summit strike at close range is not something you process as it happens. You are standing, and then you are on the ground, and your ears are producing a tone that is not quite sound. We got up. We started down. The descent took 4 hours in conditions that had removed most of my ability to feel my hands. 30 feet from the base of the technical section, I lost a foothold on wet rock and went off a small cliff. 30 feet. The rope held. We reached the trailhead at 3:47 p.m. 9 hours and 17 minutes after we left it. At the ranger station, they documented the incident, The ranger who had cleared us that morning was on duty. I told him what had happened. The static electricity at pitch 4, the strike that knocked me off the wall, the summit strike that put all three of us on the ground, the fall on the descent. He said the storm had developed faster than the morning models indicated. 20% storm chance. Start early, you will be more than fine. All three of us were on that wall. All three of us took that clearance as the professional assessment it was supposed to be. The mountain does not negotiate with ranger clearances. We were alive because the rope held twice and because none of the direct strikes landed on a person. The margin on that mountain on that day was not 20%. The margin was a rope and a 30-foot cliff that did not kill me when I hit the bottom. That one, the storm found us at 13,000 feet with nowhere to go. The next story is shorter. A middle schooler sitting on a bike rack. 30 seconds between where they were and where the lightning hit. I grew up in the Midwest, where thunderstorms are a seasonal fact of life. I have been in hundreds of them. I know what they look like when they are building. I know the smell before the rain, and I know the specific quality of a sky that is about to produce something serious. In late January of my 7th grade year, I sat on a metal bike rack outside my school, waiting to be picked up. A thunderstorm hit inside a blizzard. I moved off that bike rack 30 seconds before lightning struck the exact spot where I had been sitting. 30 seconds is the entire margin. That is the only number that matters in this story. It had been snowing lightly all day. The low-grade January snow that accumulates slowly and does not feel threatening. The kind of snow day that does not cancel school because it does not register as significant enough. After-school activity ran until its normal end time. I came outside and sat on the metal bike rack at the front of the building to wait for my ride. The sky looked the same as it had all day. Light snow, gray overcast, nothing moving fast. Then the thunder cracked. I had never heard thunder inside a snowstorm. It does not fit the mental category that thunder occupies. Thunder belongs to summer, to warmth, to green sky afternoons when the air pressure drops and the humidity builds. Thunder in late January, inside falling snow, is a category error. The brain receives it and does not immediately know what to do with it. I registered it as wrong before I registered it as dangerous. In the 5 minutes that followed the first crack, the storm assembled itself completely. Fog rolled across the parking lot and reduced visibility to approximately 30 feet. The light snow became heavy and wind-driven, coming in at an angle rather than falling. Lightning and thunder began cycling every few seconds, not the spaced-out rumble of a distant storm, but the rapid-fire sequence of a cell directly overhead. I was sitting on a metal bike rack. The rationalization was that my ride was coming, that moving away from the front entrance meant I might not be visible when they pulled up, that it was probably going to pass quickly. I stayed on the rack for approximately 2 minutes after the first thunder crack while the storm built around me. What finally moved me was the lightning frequency. When the gap between flash and sound drops below 2 seconds, the strike is less than half a mile away. The gap had dropped below 1 second. I got off the rack and moved into a small alcove in the building exterior, a recessed doorway that was not a functional entrance but provided a few feet of cover. I had been in the alcove for approximately 30 seconds when the lightning hit the bike rack. Direct strike. The sound and the flash were simultaneous, no gap, which means the strike was effectively on top of me. The bike rack was visible from the alcove. The metal was still producing a faint glow when the immediate afterimage cleared. I sat in that alcove until my ride came 20 minutes later. The storm had moved on by then. The bike rack was functional. Lightning does not always destroy what it strikes, but the paint along the top rail had burned and peeled in a strip along the section where I had been sitting. I have thought about the 2 minutes I spent rationalizing staying on that rack while the storm built. The first thunder crack was the signal. I heard it, I registered it as wrong, and I sat there for 2 more minutes because my ride was coming and I did not want to be hard to find. 30 seconds earlier, and I was still on the rack when it struck. 30 seconds. That is what 2 minutes of rationalization costs in a storm that is cycling every few seconds. I do not sit on metal anything when there is weather coming. I do not wait to see if it passes. I have not made that calculation since 7th grade. That one came down to 30 seconds on a bike rack. This last one, the scouts did not even know what had passed through their campsite until a ranger walked in at sunrise and started crying. He had already called in a recovery team. He was certain he was coming to find dead children. I have been a Boy Scout since I was 11. By the time I was 14, I had camped in rain, in cold, in conditions that would send most people home. I know what a rough night in a tent feels like. I know how to read weather and how to make a call about whether to stay or go. In March of 1994, our troop made the wrong call. We did not know it was wrong until a DNR ranger walked into our campsite at sunrise and broke down crying. He had already radioed for search and recovery assets. He was not crying because of what he found. He was crying because of what he had been certain he was going to find. Hoosier National Forest, Indiana. March 1994. A hill campsite approximately a quarter mile from the parking area, elevated, exposed, the kind of position that experienced campers know is not ideal in storm conditions, but acceptable in the forecast we were working with. Weather radios had been going off through the evening with tornado warnings, but the coordinates in the warnings were placing the activity miles to our west. We made the assessment that we were outside the threat zone. We were wrong about that. We did not know we were wrong until the next morning. The evening had been rough in the way that March camping in Indiana is sometimes rough. Wind, rain, the tent fabric doing what it does in sustained gusts. Nothing that registered as extraordinary. I had been in worse. I went to sleep. I woke up when the pressure changed, both ears simultaneously. A compression, the specific sensation of pressure differential that you get on an airplane during descent, but faster and more pronounced. I was horizontal in my sleeping bag, and I felt it before I heard anything different. Then the tent walls compressed inward. Not a gust pushing one side. Both walls simultaneously pressing toward the center of the tent as if something was squeezing the exterior from all directions. For approximately 1 second, the tent held that compressed shape. Then it popped outward. Both walls at once, expanding rapidly, the motion of a garbage bag being shaken open. I lay in my sleeping bag and did not move. The rest of the night, I did not go back to sleep. The wind ran at varying intensity until about 3 a.m., and then the storm moved through, and the last 2 hours before dawn were quiet. Morning. The campsite was scattered with debris, branches, leaves, material from the surrounding forest that had not been there the evening before. All of our anchored equipment was intact. The tents were standing. We were cleaning up when the ranger came over the hill. He stopped when he saw us. He stood at the edge of the campsite for a moment. Then he sat down on a log and put his face in his hands. He was on the radio within 30 seconds, calling off a significant number of resources he had already committed to our location. We heard him confirm multiple times that everyone was accounted for and that the assets could stand down. We sat him down and asked him what was happening. He explained that he had already radioed for search and recovery. Not rescue. Recovery. He had seen the weather data from the night before, and he had hiked up that hill expecting to find dead children. Shortly after he told us this, a helicopter radioed down its confirmation pass. A tornado had touched down at the base of our hill, a quarter-mile from our tents, at the parking area where our vehicles were. It had traveled up the slope, passed directly through our campsite, then lifted. It touched down again on a lake a quarter-mile on the other side of the hill. Our campsite was the bracket point. The tornado path ran directly through our position. It lifted precisely over us and came down again on the far side. We hiked to the lake that afternoon. The touchdown on the far shore had cleared a corridor through the tree line, a straight path of downed timber that ran in the exact direction the storm had been traveling. The ranger had called for recovery assets before he came up that hill. He had been certain we were already dead. We had experienced the whole thing as a rough night of wind,